A photograph of Donald Trump's hand is going viral. And no, it doesn't relate to the whole size of Trump's hand debacle that was a point in the 2016 campaign, but instead because there was some bruising that was captured. And while in many cases this can be completely harmless, and we have one explanation that's just sort of silly, which we'll get to, you do have that comes to mind, which is a part of what's making this go viral, the chance that it's something health related. And so here's some reporting on it. Trump shows mysterious large bruise on hand. There's the photo. Just our cameras have gotten painfully high quality, and we see too much there. It wasn't just an awkward handshake between President Donald Trump and French President Emmanuel Macron that caught the public's attention when the two leaders met on Monday. A large bruise covered up with makeup on Trump's right hand featured prominently in several photos taken in the Oval Office, sending social media abuzz with speculation. A close-up photo showed makeup piled on top of discoloration on the president's hand. Ex-users chimed in with their own guesses on what could have caused the bruise. Some suggested that it was an IV bruise, while others mused that it was triggered by the use of blood thinners. And some are saying it had something to do with the 6-second power struggle, the grabbing, the jerk session between the two hands of that I'll remind you of in a second here. But again, I'm not really making a proclamation. We don't know. It could be nothing, whatever. But this does bring to mind, and I think the summarization on X of what the subject was that hand on bruising sparks health concerns. And it does bring to our mind, I think fairly, the fact that Trump was far less transparent than Kamala Harris about his medical records and wasn't being transparent in the lead up to the election. And Harris called on Trump over and over and over to release the full extent of his records. And obviously he didn't end up doing that, leading to doctors writing op-eds like, hey, Trump, it's time to release your medical records. An informed electorate is essential in a fair election. And let me just put it this way. If this were Biden, we know how MAGA would be reacting. So that's that, because you just can't know much at this point in time. I don't think there's a ton to say. The less serious, more fun explanation is that this came from the handshake off between Macron that we talked about yesterday with Donald Trump, that Fox News and others hyped up as Trump being a big man who can do whatever the hell he wants. He can grab people however he'd like because he's a star. You know, that whole thing. So here they are greeting each other and pulling and not letting go and tugging and gripping and grabbing and holding and squeezing. So some speculate that while MAGA was saying that Trump was the big man who was breaking the hand of Macron, there were photos going around jokingly in MAGA circles of an x-ray of Macron's hand, and it was all a bunch of broken bones. But maybe the bruising came from Macron, and really, it was big man Macron, as maybe MAGA would word it, that was doing the domination. It's all so ridiculous. If you're thinking, Luke, this sounds ridiculous, it is. It is ridiculous. That's why I'm bringing it to your attention. If they're going to emphasize this, we're going to emphasize it back, okay? Here's another moment.
He's a smart customer, I will tell you that.
And the clip cuts off there, but that's at that point in time, Macron decided to squeeze the thigh of Donald Trump in a truly unique moment. But then you had this.
The joint news conference wraps up there with President Trump and the French President Emmanuel Macron.
Yeah, and then at some point throughout this whole process, even by the time Trump was in the Oval Office, there was bruising. This whole handshake situation has been a long-running story. Come here. Come here. Let me look at you. Come here, you. Let me look at you. That's what I imagine he was saying. 30 seconds. Back in 2017, he shook Macron's hand for 30 seconds. 30 seconds. All right, we're going to do it. You just watched it, but now everyone, I'm going to wait until my clock gets to, everyone do it with me. And start. Pretend like you're shaking someone's hand. And we're going to do this until I see it get to 30 seconds, just so you can imagine. Do you remember the handwriting expert who was helping us learn about what the different motions are like when you're handshaking? That is brought to my mind. And then once this 30-second, oh yeah, here. And the crazy thing about that clip was that he started talking to Macron's wife while he still had Macron's hand in his. What is this? Okay, the 30 seconds is over. That's how long it was. Can you imagine? And it's also needless and so unimportant. We don't know yet. It could be benign, but the fact that Trump is not being that transparent, and we know that such bruising can be indicative of something health-wise. It's another reminder, since we haven't really talked about this in a while, that it would be great if he'd be more transparent and release more information, especially given his advanced age. They really were hyped about bringing that up with Biden, even if Biden was, which he was, more transparent. But now they're not so interested in it here. And the only explanation we get from Trump when asked is, I don't need to release any more Dr. Ronnie, what do you call him? Ronnie Johnson, I think he called him. Dr. Ronnie, he said, I'm the most fit president. He looked at me up and down. He said, I'm so fit. Well, that's not exactly the assurance that we need, Don. But much more important at this event, something we didn't talk about yesterday, was Trump saying he's going to move forward with the tariff plan that was delayed because of the non-concessions he got from Mexico and Canada. And here he criticizes, without knowing it, himself. Listen, by the way, if you're not subscribed, please do. Come on, let's do it.
I mean, who can blame them if they made these great deals with the United States, took advantage of the United States on manufacturing, on just about everything, every aspect that you could imagine they took advantage of. I look at some of these agreements, I'd read them at night, and I'd say, who would ever sign a thing like this? So the tariffs will go forward, yes, and we're going to make up a lot of territory. All we want is reciprocal. We want reciprocity. We want to have...
So Donald Trump there said that, well, number one, he said that at nighttime, he would lay awake with the nightlight on and read trade agreements. That's obviously a lie. We know his nighttime reading is Fox News, and definitely not trade agreements. But even Elon's ex had a community note here that said President Donald Trump signed the USMCA, a thing like this specifically addressing trade with Mexico and Canada, in 2020. Trump has long taken credit for how he got rid of the terrible NAFTA and made all of our lives better with the USMCA, even though it was eerily similar. And now he's saying, what kind of idiot? At some point he said, what kind of idiot would sign such a deal? Him. He signed it. The current trade agreement we have with the two countries that he's saying we don't have a fair trade agreement with is the agreement he facilitated and it has been taken credit for years. It's your deal, bruh. Very weird. Reuters reports President Donald Trump said on Monday that tariffs on Canadian and Mexican imports are on time and on schedule despite efforts by the countries to beef up border security and halt the flow of fentanyl into the U.S. ahead of a March 4th deadline. Quote, the tariffs are going forward on time, on schedule, Trump told a joint news conference with French President Emmanuel Macron after his hand had been brutalized by Macron. No, it doesn't say that. He had been asked whether Canada and Mexico had done enough to avoid punishing 25% U.S. duties. So apparently that is moving forward. March 4th, we will see. The incoming chancellor in Germany, the conservative Friedrich Merz, said that in this moment, given Trump's actions, a goal of his is going to be severing many of the ties between Germany and the United States. No longer can the United States be the standard bearer like it's been. Not good news for us because of Don.
The absolute priority from my point of view is that the Europeans communicate and are united among themselves. Currently, the larger part of European politics without Germany. It has, of course, something to do with the election campaign and also now this interim phase. But I am in close communication with many prime ministers, heads of state and government leaders of the European Union. And for me, the absolute priority will be to strengthen Europe as quickly as possible so that we step by step also truly achieve independence from the USA. I would not have believed that I would have to say something like this on a TV program. But at the latest, after last week's statements by Donald Trump, it's clear that the Americans, at least this part of the American government, are largely indifferent to Europe's fate. I am very curious about how we will approach the NATO summit at the end of June. Head towards June, whether we will still be talking about NATO in its current state, or if we need to establish independent European defense capabilities much more quickly.
And maybe the initial visceral reaction from supporters of Trump's will be to go, yeah, get out of here, you icky Europeans. We don't care. We want you. Yeah, sure, be independent from us. America. But actually, the America that we've come to know and love, the America that benefits from its global dominance, the America that stands as or has stood as the world's sole superpower, that's not just by accident. And a part of what facilitates that geopolitical environment is the international relationships that we have. And so encouraging through wildly incoherent, I say again, trade and economic and military policies, alienating those relationships with no end in sight. He's not really explaining, here are the 5 things you could do to make us be sort of normal towards you again. He's just randomly, tariff, no tariff, tariff, no tariff, all 25%, we'll go more, we'll go less. And that chaos is making the world lose faith in us. It used to be that there were wildly different policies implemented by Republican and Democratic presidents, and the foreign policy was very different. But the general respect that the world would hold, especially our allies towards us, didn't wildly change like it is now. And that's not good. The isolationist approach that MAGA seems all too excited about pursuing hurts us as much as anyone else. Share your thoughts in the comments. What's going on with Trump's hand? The people need to know.